Most of us experience ballet in places where studios, teachers, and training pathways already exist. But today's conversation is about what it looks like to build that from the ground up. I'm joined by Lauren, the founder of the Islamabad School of Ballet, the only ballet studio in the capital city of Pakistan. We talk about how she came to live and work there, when she realized ballet might have a valuable place in her community, and what it took to turn that idea into a thriving school in a cultural context where ballet isn't widely known. We also talk about the challenges and surprises along the way, the moment her students stepped on stage for their first performance, and the unique confidence ballet is giving dancers who are discovering it for the very first time. This conversation is truly a testament to the power of ballet and one woman's inspiring commitment to share it. Let's get into it. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's so exciting to get to chat with you.
Hi, Anna. Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, so for everyone listening, Lauren and I met at the KM and Friends Adult Ballet Retreat last summer. And Lauren has a really amazing story of what she's doing in Islamabad in Pakistan and starting a ballet studio there. And so she is going to be sharing today all about her experience. So maybe, Lauren, would you mind kind of starting at the beginning of how you ended up in that part of the world?
Sure. So I met my husband, who was Pakistani, when we were in grad school together. So he came to the U.S. on a Fulbright scholarship. We were both attending the Humphrey School of Public Policy, which is part of the University of Minnesota. And so, yeah, so we met there, love story, fell in love, and got engaged. And then I moved here. This was back in 2013 that I moved to Pakistan. And so I've been living here ever since, almost a decade, with a brief couple of years, which I was back in my hometown in the U.S. And kind of returned to dancing. We'll get into that story maybe more a little bit, but yeah. So I'm here just it's a kind of a love story, I suppose.
How does ballet weave into your journey as an individual and then now with what you're doing in Pakistan?
Yeah, so my ballet career, if you can call it that, has kind of been non-traditional, non-linear. I started ballet when I was 4. Like, I think my parents just signed me up for a ballet class. And I don't have really firm memories of those early days in ballet. Like, some people have I saw my first ballet and wanted to do that. I don't remember. I grew up in a relatively small town. I'm originally from Fargo, North Dakota,
Oh, wow.
which at that time did not have any professional or even semi-professional companies. So they put me in. I danced all through high school until I graduated. Then when I went off to college, it was just kind of one of those things where, and maybe you can relate to this too, and I think a lot of people, that if you weren't on the track to be a full-time professional in a major company, that was kind of it.
Yeah.
Back then, there weren't a lot of adult classes at that time. I took a few classes here and there at the university within their dance program, but didn't even consider majoring in dance because I just, I knew I'm not good enough to be a professional. That wasn't the training I had. I'm not built for ballet, that whole mentality. I'm talking like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
That was still, So but I loved it. So I danced whenever I could, but, full-time student working to support that, it just wasn't happening a lot. Then when I had graduated from undergrad and grad school, I had my first real full-time job. This is when I had moved to Washington, D.C. area. Then I found an amazing school in right outside of D.C. Called Ballet Nova, which had an amazing adult program. And so I really got back into training in earnest. So this would be in my mid to late 20s in this time frame, and was taking as many classes as I could. Not on point though. I was just taking ballet for exercise, just for fun.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd ever perform again or anything like that. So I was there for a couple of years, dancing as much as I could. And then I had met my husband in grad school just prior to that. We decided to get married. And I moved to Pakistan. And one of the first things I did when I got here was Google, are there any ballet schools? And I couldn't find any in the city I was living in. I live in Islamabad, which is the capital. There was nothing that I could find. I found that maybe one had existed at one time or another, but was no longer operational. There was one I found in a city, Karachi, Pakistan's biggest city, but that's hours and hours away. But again, I think if it still exists, it only teaches children. So I was kind of, I was sad about that, but thought, well, I turned to basically what's available online at that point. So then it was many years later, this would be around 2016, I think. I moved back to my hometown My parents were having some health issues at that time. And so I decided to stay there. This was right after I'd had my first son as well. So I was still kind of getting back in shape from having a baby and all that. And so I went and found my old original ballet school. And my original teacher, her name's Kathy Gasper. She's in her 70s now. She's still teaching. She was teaching at their summer intensive. And so I basically just signed up for this intensive with a bunch of teenagers and was like, you know what? If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Including point. And I hadn't been on points for 15 years.
Oh my gosh, you went for it. You really went for it.
I went for it, and it was difficult. It was very difficult, very humbling. But I worked really, I was like, I'm going to commit to this. So I went from, at home doing my little bar in my little room that I had by myself to dancing that intensive. I think we were dancing, 5 hours a day. And so it was a lot. But because of that, I got back into shape pretty fast. Had a few injuries. It was probably not the best. Like dance physios probably wouldn't recommend that strategy. But because of that, I was able to get in shape. And I wasn't, starting from not dancing at all. Because like I said, I was doing Catherine Morgan's bars and other things I could find online. And then I was able to audition for their company, and they actually hired me to teach some of their beginner level classes, the little kids and some of the young. And so, yeah, while I was back home for 2 years, I danced semi-professionally in a company called FM Ballet, which was such an amazing experience. And then teaching again, which I had taught a little bit back when I was much younger. Yeah, that's basically kind of how I got back into dance after a long break. So that when I moved back to Pakistan, that was 2019 timeframe, right? Right before COVID hit.
Yep.
Not sure. Again, there's no ballet in Pakistan. I was back to my online situation. And then I got pregnant with my second child as well. So that always puts a damper in how much you're able to train, obviously. And it was around that time, though, that I think they announced the first. Yeah, I know for sure it was around that time because they announced the intensive for Catherine Morgan's first adult intensive, and I got super excited, and then literally within a couple weeks realized I was pregnant. So then by the time the intensive would have happened, I would have been 7 months pregnant. So okay, hopefully she does it again and I could come the following year. So then I went the following year, and then I did 3 years. We met at the most recent one.
Yeah. Thank you to ORZA for sponsoring today's episode. Ballet asks a lot of our bodies, and our feet are often the first place we feel it. Especially as adult dancers, balancing our training with busy lives, old injuries, long days, and limited recovery time, taking care of ourselves really matters. And that's why I love ORZA ballet slippers. ORZA was created by professional dancer Seth ORZA, who experienced firsthand the need for better, smarter slippers. After developing severe plantar fasciitis, he created the first ever patented shock-absorbing ballet shoes designed to support your body with modern footwear technology while still maintaining the traditional ballet aesthetic. Because they're designed to help reduce fatigue, improve stamina, and prevent injuries, you can focus more on your dancing and less on pain management. I started wearing the ORZA Pro 2.0 earlier this year and have never looked back. The shock absorption has virtually eliminated chronic pain in my right foot, and they've made such a difference in how I feel both during and after class. If you're an adult dancer like me, you know how important it is to take care of your body so you can keep doing what you love. Visit orzabrand.com and use code AFTERCLASS5 for $5 off your new favorite ballet slippers. Links included in the show notes. Once you were back in Pakistan, and I know you said you're kind of back to doing online stuff because there wasn't a ballet school, what was the catalyst for you? Was there a moment where you were thinking, maybe I could do my own school? What was the inspiration behind that?
Yeah. So, a couple of things kind of happened and at the same time. The first thing was, so I had some anecdotal evidence that people might be interested. I had been teaching really informally a few friends' daughters, in, my home studio, if you can even call it that. It was a storage room that I cleared out, and my husband, sweetheart, went and found the best thing he could close to a dance floor, and we laid that down. It was a gym floor. It's kind of a rubbery, a little sticky, but we, the best we could do. And we got a big mirror, and so I was teaching out of that, but just for free and just for fun. And so I didn't know two main concerns were, number one, would I even have enough students to make this viable? I kind of initially thought, even if I do start, because people had been encouraging me here and there, but I thought, I'll just be teaching maybe one class of 4 and 5-year-olds, because that's where most of the demand also is, wherever you go.
Mm-hmm.
And not that I don't love teaching little kids, I do, but I was like, I don't know if that's really the career I want to think about leaving your job. The other thing was I was working prior to starting this ballet school. I've been working in the development sector for the last 10 years, mostly as like an independent consultant for like the World Health Organization, United Nations Development Program, this kind of work. I was primarily working on public health issues related to maternal and child mortality and all of that. And so in 2020-ish, no, a little bit later, I had finished up a pretty major project with that, and then was looking for other consultancies and different things. The way the development sector works is if you're not a full-time employee of any of these organizations, you're hired to complete a project. It can be up to a couple of years or maybe even as little as a couple of months. And then you're back to applying for different things.
Wow.
And so I kind of a little, like almost 2 years ago now, a little over a year ago, I'd finished a major project, it wasn't finding anything for a while. I was applying here and there, looking for projects that I was interested in and that I was qualified to do and would suit me. I also had a very young son at that time. And then as I was really re-entering after sort of a informal maternity leave, was around the same time that a lot of development funding has now been cut across the world because of the US political situation. So at the same time that I was really coming back to trying to work full time again, there just are not a lot of opportunities. So many of the projects just ended.
Yeah.
And people lost their jobs. And so I thought, you know what, it'll be even more of a struggle to find more work in that sector, at least for the next several years. And I had this in the back of ruminating in the back of my mind that maybe I could start a ballet school. And so I thought, you know what, let's just go for it. What's the worst that can happen? Nobody signs up for the classes and I'm no worse off than I was. Like, just go back then to what I was doing before. So then the question was, okay, how do we start? Because there are no studios here. So it's not as simple as just renting a space or something.
Yeah.
So what I ended up doing, I approached essentially what's like a country club kind of thing that exists in Islamabad. And they had a large building that they taught yoga classes out of primarily. And so I approached them, explained that I wanted to start offering ballet classes there if I could. But none of us were sure. They weren't sure, well, is anyone going to be interested in this? The people I spoke to initially that were on these various committees that run all of the activities that are offered at this club, they have to prove everything. And a couple of them misunderstood me and thought I wanted to teach belly dancing, which, don't get me wrong, belly dancing is great. I'm not in any way qualified to teach that. And so it took a while. And I literally clipped together bits of classes off of YouTube into one video and made a presentation and some images and said, this is what ballet is. And I think people would be interested. And so they said, okay, here's what we'll do. This club has a beautiful theater space where they show movies, but then it's a stage where they occasionally hold live theater as well. They said, here's what we'll do. We'll give you a seminar free for members to come in. You can explain what you want to do, basically. So I just cobbled together. I set the theme as Swan Lake, and I just showed them snippets of that, taught them a little bit of short dance for all the kids that wanted to try it out. Even some adults came in on stage and tried it out. And just a really brief also history of ballet, nothing's too stodgy and long, but just a 15-minute presentation, and then said, let's try it out. And then if you're interested, sign up for the classes and we'll go from there. And through that, the response has been overwhelming just from starting there. I'll never forget, I was backstage, no one's going to show up for this seminar, right? The time they gave me was terrible. I don't want to badmouth this club because they did give me this opportunity, but they gave me a Friday afternoon at 3:00. So not everyone's even off work yet. Yeah. And Fridays in an Islamic country is it's the main prayer day. So also people leave for the weekend. They've gone to mosque. They're not necessarily looking for extra activities at that specific time. And I just kind of thought, there's a good chance no one's going to even be here. But yeah, well over 100 people showed up, which I was,
Gosh.
and we also did very little promotion. They put up a couple of banners, I think sent out an email maybe, but that was it. And still with that, many people showed up, and all of them virtually were interested in signing up. So then we got approval for me to start teaching classes on weekends. I initially started with just 3 different levels, based on age, because everyone's a beginner here. So I had the little kids, I had like preteens, and then I had an adult class, which I was really excited about. They all filled to the point that I had to add one more for the like 5 to 7-year-olds, which is always going to be your prime.
Yeah.
And so I was teaching 4 classes in a row on weekends. So that went on for several months. The issue was just because this is a large club, it's very bureaucratic in the way it works. And so these committees would have to keep re-meeting and reconvening, and like they were just only willing to give me approval like a couple months at a time.
Yeah, you're kind of on a leash. Yeah.
Yeah, and it like had I been still working full time in some other job, that would have been fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I couldn't quite get them to understand, like, no, I want this to be financially viable for me as well as a full-time job. So I can't only be allowed to teach on weekends during these limited time slots, and then also have to like wait for like stop every 2 months and wait for approval again, which can take a month or 2.
Oh my gosh.
And then we start again. And that's also not the best for the students in terms of their proficiencies to have to keep
going.
right. So so I basically in that time started looking for alternate places. And so luckily though, I through the club again, because people were starting to become aware that this even existed. I had no advertising budget or anything like that. So it was purely just word of mouth. And then I created an Instagram page just so it would exist in case people happened to find it. But that was really it. But because of that, I got really lucky. A wonderful lady reached out to me who owns a small private school. Well, her family owns like a larger school system throughout the country, but she herself was running this one specific branch. And within it, they were in the middle of renovations, and she said, "We want to build a dance studio in here." So she showed me the space when it was back down to the unfinished walls, and said, "So I love your advice on like the flooring and all these things." So we collaborated on that, and basically, then from there, I was able to start teaching in after school timings, evenings and weekends, and then during as part of the curriculum for the kids that attended that school, it's like a nursery school up to grade 1 right now. I teach a little half-hour ballet class for the kids that actually attend school because it's a really holistic, well-rounded so I'm teaching kindergarten and first grade age kids there, and then I have running the ballet school. And then now I've expanded a little bit. I'm teaching in another studio, again, through word of mouth. The parent of one of my students, her friend had opened up a new yoga studio. And so she was looking for more instructors to come. So I've started teaching there as well. So I'm teaching in 2 places, like my own ballet school, they're just splitting between the 2. And then teaming up with a couple of local schools to teach within their extracurricular or their own curriculum program. So within my own ballet school, I've got 45 to 50 students right now. And then I teach additionally another, I suppose, 25 to 30 students within these other private schools. So it's definitely now it's become pretty full-time. It's been really positive overall. I'm really enjoying myself. I'm really happy with everything, how everything's going.
I'm so glad. It's really cool to hear about, ballet growing in different communities and different parts of the world. What's the adults program been like for you? Because I know that that's also part of what you've been doing. And for listeners who are also adult dancers, I think it's fun to kind of know what has that looked like in a different cultural context, and just how has it been received within the adult community?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really well received. The challenge with the adult classes so far for me has just been, and I think this will be anywhere in the world with adults, is they're busy, right? And it's one of those things, especially their parents or they're working full time, and it's to prioritize themselves to be able to come to class frequently enough. Right now, I've got several adult students that are semi-consistent. A couple of them performed with my school's very first performance back in this most recent January. We did Swan Lake in more character roles.
Yeah.
But they wanted to be on stage, and I was thrilled. I'm thinking of trying to get another absolute beginner, like maybe 4 or 8 week course, like try out ballet if you've ever wanted to. Because I've gotten, now that more people are aware my ballet school exists, I've gotten a lot of inquiries.
Have you been craving more time in the studio and more connection with other adult dancers? If so, I have great news for you. This episode is sponsored by LABL Active, a dance and activewear brand inspired by the artistry, discipline, and presence of dancers, and the host of the 2026 Adult Ballet Retreat. 5 full days of ballet classes and social activities designed specifically for adult dancers, taking place in Seattle, Washington, June 21st through the 26th. I've personally attended retreats hosted by this team multiple times, and it's always an unforgettable experience. There's nothing like spending a week surrounded by other adult dancers, immersed in your shared love of ballet, in a space that's supportive and encouraging. And this whole week is thoughtfully built around adults. The pacing, the coaching, the environment, and there's 3 levels to choose from. So whether you're a beginner or have been dancing for years, this event is for you. I'm so excited to be attending again this year, and I would genuinely love to dance with you in person. Registration closes on April 15th, so if you're interested, don't wait. And because you're part of the after-class community, you can use code AFTERCLASS100 and get $100 off your registration. All the details and links to register are in the show notes. If you've been dreaming of a ballet experience that fills your cup, I cannot recommend this retreat enough. Hope to see you there. I would imagine that's really cool as a teacher to see people being exposed to ballet for the first time. And I'm curious if there's things where you're like, oh, I've really seen ballet speak to them in this way or give them this kind of gift, like as I've watched them develop.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that have stood out. Well, number one, with some of my children that I teach, their parents have spoken to me and said, especially with this like pre-teenage group where self-esteem can start to be kind of an issue, things like that. They're like, she's a different kid, like the way she walks, the way she carries herself. She used to be so shy. And so I've gotten that feedback from several parents, which means the world to me. And then with the older ones and the adults, I hope that it's building their confidence. I think that was one of the main reasons that I really, really was adamant that I wanted to do as many performance opportunities as I could as well.
Yeah.
Because, number one, that's why I love ballet. That's why I keep coming back to ballet. And then also I wanted them to understand ballet as a performing art, the storytelling aspect, the getting to play a character, and the children that I'm teaching, the adults, all of them, like they took to their roles with so much enthusiasm. Like it was amazing.
I love that.
And they were on my case as soon as that performance wrapped. What's the next one? When are we doing it? When can we do it? And then now I've started to, part of the curriculum that I developed, I show clips and things and I explain the major classical story ballets, so they're familiar with some of them. They've seen bits. When are we doing Nutcracker? When are we doing Alice in Wonderland? When are we doing Sleeping Beauty? Like they're on my case, which is, I love it because they got on that stage and they had a ball. And my goal is to build up a repertoire of classical ballets that I've adapted down to around 30 minutes is the runtime currently, and unless the school gets a little bit bigger.
It's amazing though how much you've adapted.
Yeah.
Even just with changing up the ballets that you're doing to be able to suit the students you have, the level, like it's really cool just because that's a lot of work for you, to basically have to restructure a ballet into a 30-minute production that can suit all of your individual students' needs and things. And so it's really cool because I think one of the cool things when there's not as many resources or things going on, I think, is the creativity then gets to kind of come into play. I think sometimes with somewhere like the States where there's so much ballet, there's kind of this mentality of like, well, this is the way it's always been done and this is the way we do it and it has to be like this. But then when you're somewhere like where you are in Pakistan, where there's not this set way of doing things, you can really figure out how to make it work in the context that you're in. And in so many ways, like I wish that there was more of that mindset. And I think it is happening a little bit in the adult ballet community. Like you're seeing more, companies forming where they're taking, either full-length ballets and adapting them, or they're just creating brand new works that will suit the level of the adult students. And so like you're seeing some of that happen, which is amazing. But I also know that there is still that mindset where ballet is very set in its ways of like, this is how we do it. If we're doing Swan Lake, it has to be the entire thing. It has to be this, you know? And so I love hearing of like the ways that you're adapting it and making it work so that your students are getting to have opportunities rather than just being like, no, it's too much. You know, we can't do this full big production, so we're not going to do anything. It's like, no, let's make it work. And I love that mindset.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. Thank you. It's good to hear from someone who knows, you know, and I'm glad that that's coming through, that's what I'm trying to do. Because I think that was another thing that I was kind of stuck initially. Like, how do I approach this? Because I knew I wanted to give them performance opportunities. So I edited it down 2.5 hours of Tchaikovsky's masterpiece into 30 minutes. Some of the transitions might have been a little rough, but I learned within like iMovie. The backdrop also, they had a big screen, so I just went on Etsy and bought backdrops for people that could be projected. Because even that, like I was trying to find someone to paint a backdrop, and I didn't even know where to begin to find someone who would know how to do that. So it worked out really well, but I think just the way the students have taken to it has really kind of proven my approach. Possible. Like you said, like I think it's a blessing and a curse that I'm, as far as I know, the only ballet teacher essentially in a country of 200 million people, which is crazy to think about, but Pakistan is huge population wise. And so the good thing is I can kind of do whatever I want. I'm not knocking certain traditions in ballet. I think ballet as an art form has stood the test of time for a reason, but some things are outdated. And like, why are we feeling shackled by just because of how something was originally 200 years ago? Like maybe it made sense at that time in that context, but it doesn't anymore. You can still put on a really high quality level production that like in its own right is entertaining to the audience.
Totally. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter if it's up to the level of like Royal Ballet or something. Like it's still good. It can still be really good if like people are willing to like, you get in there, you get creative with the costumes, you get creative with what you can do with the set. You like
what you're doing is such a testament to that, you know, that it is possible. And I would even love to know, just like for adults who are listening, because I know you had even mentioned earlier about feeling almost like an imposter syndrome of like, who am I to teach and do this thing? Is there something that you would pass on to someone who maybe wants to do something similar to what you've done, in the sense of like starting something new, breaking new ground, doing something that hasn't been done before, whether it's starting a program or trying to launch a production that's adapted? Is there anything in particular that your own journey has taught you that you would want to pass on?
I mean, imposter syndrome is exactly what I did feel and still do feel at times. And I just have to like remind myself, like, look, you've put in a good faith effort to make yourself the best teacher you can, and you're trying, and that's what matters. And I would say to someone who's whatever it is, get out of your own way. Like, don't defeat yourself before you've even tried. I think a lot of us, and I'm one of those people that I get stuck at times because I know I'm too hard on myself. Like it's not going to be perfect. Why even do it? And it's like, no, that's the wrong mentality. Like, do whatever the thing is. Do the thing, do it imperfectly, do it badly even.
Yeah.
But just start. I mean, because what's the worst that can happen? Wherever you are in your life, for whatever reason, you've gotten to this point. So just start now. Like, that was the other thing. Looking back, I sit and think, oh, I should have done this when I first moved here. I should have done this 10 years ago. And I have to talk myself out of that regret, because it's like, you know what? Sure, maybe. But maybe back then something wouldn't have worked out.
Such great advice. And I love what you said too about being willing to start imperfectly, or even like, because I think that is like one of the biggest lies that we tell ourselves, is that like we can't start until everything is perfect, because I think it's not realistic, because so much of what will make something great eventually has to be learned in process. And so I think you have to be in motion, and you have to be willing to start imperfect,
100%,
messy. You have to just start, and things will...
100%. 100%. Yes. Like, yes. 100%. Especially with something like the arts or like a sport or something like that. Like, don't go perform surgery before your
Yeah.
body. Like, obviously, but like something like this, like no one's gonna be harmed if you don't do it perfectly.
Yeah.
Like you'll move on. And like that was my thing too when I was getting started. My husband had to like talk some sense into me a little bit because I was like, okay, well, I don't have this huge professional career to fall back on as credentials. So I need to get every single certification I can find in ballet from wherever I can get it before I can even start. And he's like, you need to stop.
Yeah.
You're qualified enough. You've danced for 20 something years. Like, just start, And then, like you said, you're so right. Some of the things, even if I would have not wasted, but like spent an additional 3 or 4 years trying to get every possible different certification I could in teaching and different things, I still wouldn't have known some of the things that I had to learn by doing it.
Yeah.
Don't talk yourself out of something that could work, that could be great, they could enjoy and learn from and grow. And
And it can help a lot of people. I think sometimes that's also the flip side of like when we hold ourselves back is whatever the thing is that you're meant to share with the world isn't going out, and you're not getting to have the impact. Because I'm thinking of specifically in your context of like if you had let that fear or like imposter syndrome, all the things stop you, all of these students that you now have wouldn't have got to have the experience of being exposed to ballet and learning ballet. So it's like our own insecurities and inhibitions they can block other people from experiencing something great. And so
100%.
Sometimes if you can't find it within yourself to do it for yourself, sometimes I think thinking of the external of do it for the people that you're meant to serve and that you're meant to inspire can also be
I think that's a really beautiful way of putting it. That's a really beautiful thought.
What is the best way for people to follow along, stay in touch, support you? Are there needs for any particular support?
That's really sweet to ask that. At the moment, I just follow my ballet school on Instagram. I think is the most straightforward way, Islamabad School of Ballet. I don't post a ton. That's an area I'm still learning. If you go to it, it's very amateurish, the stuff that I create anyway. So what I would say, I do have a few charity students that I give free classes, and I'm hoping to expand that. So someday in the future, I might fundraise specifically around that. Right now, though, in the meantime, what I've decided to do, because just logistically, I can only accommodate a couple of like free students. But I do want to grow that. But I've decided then in the meantime, since I work with children, and there's so many children that don't even have basic necessities, let alone being able to do extracurriculars like ballet. And so I'm choosing organizations that work with children each month to make a donation. So if they follow my Instagram every month, I'll announce a new organization. And so if people would be willing to go, I will always link to them. And then someday in the future, when I can expand to have more free students, do more outreach, because in a country like Pakistan, there's a lot of poverty. A lot. And a lot of kids, especially girls, don't have a lot of opportunities. So I'm trying to do what I can around that as well, because it's just, we have to do something. We can't check out. Like I can't, you can't look at the state of the world and let it make you turn inwards and just shut it all out. Like I understand people who talk about like, I can't follow the news because of my mental health and all this. I get that. But at the same time, like, turn that discomfort, that despair, don't let it become despair, turn it into some kind of action.
Yeah, and definitely let me know, as like the scholarship portion and stuff starts evolving, because that's something I would love to even just be able to tell people when it's launched.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, when I get that fully like fleshed out, like how to go about doing that, I will definitely let you know. Oh, and I did want to say also, from the retreat last time when we did the dancewear swap and I kind of put out that message, dancewear is hard to find here. And some people, even if you can't afford it because you have to order from around. Like, I just want to, if any people from the retreat are listening, like they rose to the occasion so amazingly. Like people brought stuff and people went on and bought things. And then like Catherine's team, like they gave me a whole bunch of her line of stuff that was there. And I've been slowly but surely distributing it to students. and then like using it to work with tailors here. I have a lady that's kind of an artist, and I try to support local crafts people as much as I can.
Yeah.
So she's been using those as samples to make more costumes. So I just want a big thank you, because again, the adult ballet community is so positive. So like all of that stuff is being put to good use as much as I can. I'll try to share more pictures as things get turned into costumes and dancewear and stuff.
I know people will be really excited to hear that. And I'll put all of the links to everything you're doing in the show notes. So for everyone who's listening, definitely make sure you go and follow Lauren's work and the school, because I know it's just going to continue to grow. I think it's just so amazing what you're doing. And I really think it's going to continue to just, be really wonderful for the community that you're serving. So thank you so much for coming on and for sharing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, and for all the offers of support, and for the support you're providing, and for what you do as well. You're inspiring people.
Thank you.
To come into the ballet world. I know it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been so fun, and I love seeing the community growing, and just love getting to talk to people like you that are just doing amazing things out in the world. So thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me again.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love for you to share it with a friend or leave a quick review. It really helps more adult dancers find the podcast. All the links and resources we mentioned today are waiting for you in the show notes. And if you want more adult ballet content in between episodes, come hang out with me on Instagram @thebusybunhead. See you next week after class.